I well remember broadcasting in March 2020. The then Prime Minister Morrison addressed the nation. He called it an historic gathering. It was historic to him because it brought together the unconstitutional National Cabinet, the source of many disasters that were to follow. However, the then Prime Minister Morrison started on the right note talking about coronavirus when he said, quote, "The truth is," by the way, note the word truth, "the truth is that while many people will contract this virus, it's clear, just as people get the flu each year, it is a more severe condition than the flu, but for the vast majority, around 8 in 10, he said, is our advice, it'll be a mild illness and it will pass. However, for older Australians and those who are more vulnerable, particularly those in remote communities and those with pre-existing health conditions, it is a far more serious virus, and that is our concern. Our aim in this is to protect the most vulnerable," unquote. Well, government did they? Alarmism and hysteria took over. And dare I say, unchallenged untruths. And if you dared to challenge, well, you were vilified, ostracised, cancelled. Tell me about it. When I constantly repeated those words of the Prime Minister and argued that we could apply what he said and let the rest of Australia get on with their lives, I was threatened with a fate worse than death. I was told by leading people in this country that I better be careful because hundreds of thousands of people were going to die. And the alarmism continued. And as you know, every day we got the lectures, press conferences with voices penetrating across the nation like someone scratching their fingernails on a chalkboard. It grated. And if you'd read enough to understand the nonsense that was being hurled at us, it was even more irritating. Yet here we are today, and so far from coronavirus, remember, we never know if people died with it or from it. In 31 months since March 2020, there have been 15,490 deaths. Now, as the poet John Donne once wrote, any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. However, 15,490 deaths is 0.0596% of the Australian population. 0.0596. Now, just forget coronavirus for a moment. On average, 450 people in Australia die every day. As at today, it's 933 days since Prime Minister Morrison made his statement to the nation. And forgetting coronavirus, if in Australia 450 people die every day, that means excluding coronavirus, 419,850 people would have died between March 2020 and now. 419,850. 15,490 were from coronavirus. 15,490. And as I regularly warned, over 99% of the cases were mild. And to the alarmists even today, 100% of the cases in Australia are mild. Yet businesses were forced to shut, visitors were banned from private homes, curfews were enforced by the police and the army, people were locked out of their own state, locked out of their own country, limits were placed on how many people could go to a funeral. As Michael Koziol wrote incisively recently in the Sydney Morning Herald, and I quote, "It would be a fairly intellectually impoverished society that was not interested in how exactly these incursions into everyday life were decided upon and what effect that had on curbing the virus." He wrote, "The lack of curiosity about these matters is astounding," unquote. Well, what is even more concerning, I'm coming to a point, is the ruthless way in which the best intellectual minds in the world on this issue were completely ignored.